Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, all my NB friends. You are tuned to Sacred Voices on KGNU. This is Metro Arts. My name is Aston. I am a co-executive director for Sacred Voices, and I am joined today by Bree Hill, the other co-executive director for Sacred Voices. How are you doing today, Bree?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Great. So normally at the beginning of the show, I like to brief the general public, give them a 1 to 2 sentence description of what Sacred Voices is, what we do. But since you're here, why don't you give it a shot?
Sure. So I would describe Sacred Voices as we are a nonprofit here in Denver. We're pretty much like a hidden gem. We foster unity and healing among BIPOC communities, youth, adults, just about anyone who is engaged by us through creative expression. So we have open mics every second Friday of the month. We have workshops to people who are interested and who reach out to us. And we're doing some pretty cool community events. All that is in the sake of community, creative expression, and supporting youth and their voice and keeping their voices sacred.
Yes, that is a great description of what we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, speaking of one of those programs, the open mic, today is actually the second Friday of the month, and so our show is going to be later today, and that's going to be at the Buell Public Media Center. That just so happens to be the same building where KGNU's Denver studio is. We will be on the first floor with Denver Community Media, and we will be starting our show around 6:30 p.m. if any of our listeners are interested in attending that show. So, Bree, why don't you tell us a little bit more about some of our programs? So, we do workshops, and you have facilitated some of those workshops. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with that?
Sure. So we do workshops. They are all poetry based workshops, culturally responsive poetry based workshops. And what does that mean? That means, not teaching like Shakespeare or predominantly white writers or white poets. We bring in local poets. And so for me, I try to bring in as many local poets as possible to teach. So I have taught, Bobby Lefebvre's work. I've taught Susie Q's work. I've taught Carrie Joy's work, all to get young people and people in general engaged and experience into the poetry world. This is just to show that like you don't have to be one set type of person to write poetry, because here are all these people with the same values, the same lived experiences, the same struggles as you, and they are here writing poetry, creating and doing the things that they want to do. Through those poetry workshops, sometimes it is prompted. So, I will give people prompts to write workshops. We'll have maybe some questions, but really the main bulk of our workshops are free writing. I believe that free writing kind of breaks down that like institutional barrier of, I don't really know what to write. I feel hesitant to coming to these workshops because I'm not a writer. But when you have this free write section, it's just kind of like, what is on your mind? Write about it. How do you feel today? Write about it. What is an experience as a young person being in DPS schools? Let's write about it and just free write. There's no error, there's no grammar mistakes, there's no criticism of what you write. And so our workshops very much so are kind of participant led, in a sense. And so we are kind of just like the driver, and our participants are kind of like, the passenger who like tells us to go right, to go left, to, pay attention to the road. There's a like raccoon on the street, you might want to swerve right. And it really is like collective community solidarity in our workshops. We have a workshop coming up for a college that I have forgotten, and I apologize, but it's going to be super cool. We're going to be including poetry and ethnic studies together. And so, how do young people translate their history into creative expression? Go. And so that's what we're going to do.
And that's what you're describing is really why I like working for this organization so much, and how it is so radically different from the academic sense of poetry that is part of the base curriculum in schools these days. Like, I remember when I was in middle school and high school and, learning about poetry, like how you were saying, reading Shakespeare sonnets and having really strict rules for everything, and it's just not a fun experience. It's very stifling, and has nothing to do with my culture at all. So, having something like this that is truly radically different in terms of education is just very important for youth, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a bit more about the two of us. Who are we? Because we are basically running Sacred Voices right now, and I feel like a lot of people out there may know one or two things about us, but not really the whole story. So why don't you give us some of your history?
Sure. I'll give you the history of like how I got involved with Sacred Voices, and then I'll give you like a present day of like what do I do outside of Sacred Voices. And so for me, I was a performer for Sacred Voices. I think I started performing like when I got out of college in like, God, when did I graduate college? Oh my God, 2019? I think it's 20. No, wait, that doesn't sound right.
Your first performance was 2019.
Yeah, okay, 2019. So I graduated college in 2019 and I moved from Boulder to Denver because I was living up in Boulder for school. And I felt like I was like ostracized from my community. Like I didn't have anyone to hang out with. I started going to open mics around Denver, but I found that they're very gentrified. They're very white. They're very like, like I'm going to stand up here and read you 15 poems and none of it is going to resonate with you. And I was just like, man, as a creative person, I've lost my community. Like I didn't feel welcomed. I didn't feel seen as I was going to these open mics. And one of my friends, Charlie, was like, hey, I'm going to Sacred Voices. Do you want to come with? And I was like super hesitant. I was like, oh, is it going to be like the same open mic, like where, I get up and no one's going to snap for me? Like, I don't know. But I trusted Charlie and I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll come. And I think that was the night that I was just like, yeah, this is one of the open mics that I'm going to just like keep coming to regularly because people really liked other people's work and they showed it. Like I come from a Baptist background, and so like the Baptist church is very loud when they love like what the preacher is preaching. They snap, they clap, they stomp their feet, and like that is what I experienced at Sacred Voices, where it's like this community seeing you and your art and your labor. And I was like, done. I'm done. I'm doing it. I'm gonna come back every single time. And that's what I did. And then come this panorama that we're still in with COVID-19. I decided to join the board because I saw, you, Aston, struggling to like keep this organization alive and keep it going and have the open mics still going and the workshops and stuff. And I was like, I very much so am like, I'm a community fiend. Like I love community so much that I will do just about anything. And so, I joined the board. I was on the board. I was doing workshops. I was facilitating the workshops. I was kind of like the main facilitator for most of our workshops. And then as the pandemic grew and COVID started to affect us a little bit more in terms of virtual workshops, in terms of our virtual open mics, our open mics in person, I really felt a need to step up a little bit more in community. And, I was like, Aston, what are we going to do? Like, like we have this organization, we have the money, we have like the resources to do things. And I know for a fact without Sacred Voices, we would not be supporting the people that we are, and they would not have this kind of like mecca of, non-judgmental open mics, non-judgmental workshops, a place where you can see young people in positions of power, and a place where you can see young people have a voice in what goes on creatively. And so I was like, Aston, I told myself when I got into my nonprofit job that I would never become an ED. And, I see a need for like a more structured leadership and Sacred Voices. So let's just, become EDs. And after I said that, I immediately regretted it, but didn't want to look like a punk. And I was like, you know what, let's just keep it going. And I was like, grr. And so that's like my background history with Sacred Voices. Outside of Sacred Voices, I work full-time for another nonprofit. We're called Project Voice. You can look us up. Project Voice is very well known in Denver and Five Points areas as well. I am a consultant, so I do DEI workshops, anti-racism trainings, anti-LGBTQIA trainings. I am an artist as well, so I do poetry. I write poems. I have a chapbook out there somewhere. If you got it, you got it. If you didn't, I'm sorry. And I perform a lot. I am a Youth on Record fellow, and I work for my partner as her assistant. She is a sexuality educator, and I work for her organization as well, which is the Chrysalis House. They are a sex positive co-op who is starting to become a nonprofit. So come a couple of years, I'll probably be working for 3 nonprofits. And yeah, I do a lot of things in Denver. I'm very community oriented. If you've seen my face, you know how much I go hard for community. I'm all over the place. I'm very well resourced. What else do I do? I think that's it. Yeah, that's all I do.
I mean, it's a lot. So when you list it out, sometimes I forget just how much you actually do, and it still surprises me sometimes. So yeah, you're very community oriented, and you're very instrumental in keeping Sacred Voices going at the capacity that it's at right now, and I definitely thank you for that, because like you said, I was struggling for a while. So for me, my story is I worked for Sacred Voices back before it was Sacred Voices. We were known as Cafe Cultura back in the day. I started working for them around 2015, and I was an hourly worker. I was basically an intern at that time, and I just kind of stuck with it, kept going, eventually getting more and more responsibilities. My focus in school was audio engineering, so I primarily worked with the open mics, doing the live sound and also video editing and all of this other technical stuff. And in 2018, when we had our change of leadership and we became board-led, I was still there. I stuck around and stuck with it, and I joined the board at the end of that year when they asked me to. And after a few changes in the board of directors and just a whole bunch of things related to that, around the beginning of 2019, I really stepped into a leadership role with the organization, and that's around the time when the open mic started up again, when we started seeing performers like Bree come into the space and really give Sacred Voices its own identity, as opposed to being the new Cafe Cultura. Now I really see us as our own thing at this point. And then sometime in this year, I believe, it was when Bree came to me and suggested that we become co-EDs, and I thought, well, I'm basically already doing this anyway, so might as well do that. And now here I am. Aside from Sacred Voices, what I'm doing currently, so like I said, I was in school for audio engineering, and so I am a freelance audio engineer right now, recording local artists, doing live shows here and there, as well as still doing all of the open mics for Sacred Voices, which you will see later tonight. And besides that, I'm also I'm an instructor as well, so while Bree teaches poetry and anti-racism seminars and all of that stuff, I am out there teaching music theory and guitar lessons and things like that. Maybe not quite the same vein of things, but I'm still out there teaching. And that's pretty much where I am right now and who I am as a co-executive director for this organization. So there you have it. That's the leadership of Sacred Voices. Now that we know who we are, let's kind of transition a little bit into talking about what Sacred Voices has been doing since its, reformation as Sacred Voices in 2019. So it's been about 2 years at this point. We've come a long way. What would you say that we've been doing and how we've improved over those 2 years, Bree?
I'm like, wow, it's been 2 years. Holy crap. Time is not real, and it scares me. I would say that Sacred Voices has really been trying to solidify our mission and our values and how we show up to community and how we show up to the people who we serve. So we recently just changed our mission statement. I'm sure that that will change again with more strategic planning. We've revamped our website, and we've started to make a workshop curriculum that we give out to schools. So I know for me, I was working with an elementary school, and they're like, I've been teaching my young brown students all of these white poets. I would really like, a curriculum made by Sacred Voices. And so we are in that business of writing out curriculums and sending it out to schools who need it, whether that is a pay service or a free service if the school has the same values as the organization. Our open mics are slowly becoming more and more of a popular thing in Denver. Started to see more people come to our open mics. And I think the one thing that really has been like a big thing for us is like we've been doing a lot of community events. And one of our biggest community events that we just got done doing is that we partnered with the Denver Museum of Nature and Science for their Night at the Museum event. And we had 2 stations outside of the Egyptology and the Mineral and Gems, finally got that right. And we had facilitators out there facilitating people on prompts as you would see in the exhibit. And so there would be like these little pieces of paper, and it'd be like, write a poem about what it would be for you to be mummified. Like, who do you want to, guide yourself into the afterlife? Write about how hard it is for your life and what gem are you going to come out as at the end of your struggles, at the end of whatever it is that you're facing. And so we did that. A lot of people interacted with us. There were a lot of young people there as well. Some young kids just wanted drawing. Some young kids wanted to write poetry. Thankfully, we were both versed in doing both. And then at the end, we had an open mic, which was super dope because I was like, an open mic at a museum, who would have thought to have, an open mic at a museum? And we had like a first timer come up to the mic, which was super cool. And she had a really great poem. I think she was a geologist by trade, and she wrote a poem about, rocks. And this is like her first time experiencing rocks and minerals in this creative way for the very first time. Like, she said that she's been around rocks her entire life and she never had the opportunity to look at them in this poetic way. We've also been having community events at our partner organization, Union Hall Denver. We've been having some deep dive series where we invite local BIPOC artists to come in and host an event with us. And so we had an event with grief, and how do you use grief to manage your emotions? How to use grief to go about in the world and come out, a little bit stronger, a little bit more tender, a little bit more gentle with yourself. And we had some collage nights. Coming up next weekend, we are going to have a holiday pop-up event where there will be some vendors there, hoping to get a lot of indigenous bead workers there. So you can, buy some earrings or bracelets or whatever it is that they have on the table there for you before the holiday seasons come up, because everyone knows that it really sucks. Just come, December 23rd and you realize you have no presents. We got you. Come by. It is December 18th at Union Hall Denver. Union Hall also has been a really great partner for Sacred Voices. I think we developed our partnerships a little bit more in these past 2 years. We've had a lot of people show up for us as we've shown up for them. So Union Hall Denver is a super cool and super unnoticeable organization that people should just know about. They're right across the way from Union Station. They have amazing artwork there by artists in Denver that go unnoticed as well. So, if you have a chance, come by for our holiday event, get to know Union Hall a little bit more, and get to know us. I think I answered your question, but I also could have just been rambling.
That's okay. I like both. And I think the listeners do as well. Some of the other, because I like the point you made about how we're collaborating with other organizations, and the big one, the obvious one, KGNU. They've been a major help for us getting the word out there and getting the word of other artists out there. A lot of up and coming artists, a lot of young people, a lot of BIPOC people who don't really have the opportunity to talk about their work or, talk to a more general audience of whoever has a radio. stuff like that. So that's been a great opportunity for us as well as the artists themselves. Yes, and we partnered with the Open Media Foundation originally for our open mics, and now we're with Denver Community Media. Really, our partnerships are what drives us forward in a lot of ways, and that's something that I think is pretty integral to our identity, is just, community, cooperation, all of that sort of thing. That's what really keeps us going. But let's talk about the future of Sacred Voices. Where are we going now? What's next?
Gosh, I have no idea. I know that right now, myself and Aston, we are currently in the process of writing a grant for Caring for Denver. Right now, Caring for Denver has a $6 million initiative fund to support youth and their mental health and the misuse of drugs. And so myself and Aston, we are writing a grant for a 6-week summer academy, which is very big. I feel like I know for a fact, like one day I was just like, at 10 o'clock at night, I just started to write up a summer academy draft. And I was like, Aston, look, here. And he was like, what are we going to do with this? Like, cool, this is great. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Cool. I'll just put this away for now. But now with this Caring for Denver grant, we actually have hope for the future to have a 6-week summer academy. And that includes a poetry-based, culturally responsive, and ethnic studies-based summer academy where young people can come in, learn their history and their cultura, and get to write creative expressions about their history, get to write creative expressions about social issues that is going around, and also focus on their mental health through creative expressions. We're going to be partnering with super dope people. Joy is Resistance. They are a mental health nonprofit that focuses on youth, and so they'll be partnering with us. We're also going to be partnering with my partner, who is fantastic and wonderful. She is a mental health clinician. Her services is My Therapeutic Services. So we'll be having both youth focused and BIPOC Indigenous focused mental health services for our young people if they engage with us. So fingers crossed for us, listeners and people listening to us. We would love to have this. It's a big thing. I think this would propel Sacred Voices' mission to promote unity and healing among Denver communities even further, as we have this summer academy, as people are coming in. We're hiring BIPOC facilitators to help facilitate with us. We're going to be doing like restorative justice training, because we know that young people always want people to think that they're failures. But if you have restorative justice, if you believe in them, if you're just like, hey, this is what you did was wrong, but we're not going to kick you out. We're not going to say that you're a failure. We're not going to bar you from the resources that we have. And I think that is the next step for Sacred Voices, is providing more youth and more people and our community partners with resources, with outcomes that will both benefitly, is that a word? Positively impact both of us. Words just don't make sense to me, but I'm a poet, which is hilarious. So yeah, I think that's in the future for me. I would love a building as well. So listeners, if you are in the process of getting rid of your building and you want to give it to a great organization, please, I would love a building to work out of so that we are more accessible to our community.
Yeah, I think those are the two big things: summer academy and some sort of physical space. But yeah, that's the future for us, hopefully. So let's talk a little bit more about you in particular. So you kind of touched on a few things that you do. So your consulting, your artistry, and the other nonprofits you work for. Why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
I'm stressed, send help. That's
I feel the same way, believe me.
I mean, just like more of what I do, or is there like a...
Let's be more specific. So why don't you talk about your work with your partner and with the Chrysalis House?
Yeah, so what do I call myself? I'd like to think that I'm like the house kitten of the Chrysalis House and for my partner. I like show up for them all the time, making sure that they can, utilize the resources that I give to them. So right now I am my partner's assistant. She, like I said, is a sexuality professional. So she does sex positive workshops. She does gender and inclusive workshops, Gender 101. Can you go away, Golden Doodle? She also has a golden doodle named Adonis, who I also take care of because we're in a relationship. And she also does DEI workshops. And so she does sex positive DEI workshops to just about anyone who wants it. And so I support her in that. I answer her emails. I make sure that information goes out, and I make sure that, she has a pretty good social media presence. You can follow her at Honestly Nay. And with the Chrysalis House right now, they are in the process of trying to become a nonprofit. And I'm not sure if the listeners know how hard it is to become a nonprofit. It is super hard. There are a ton of things that you have to go through. You have to get a lawyer to help you with the paperwork. You have to file the paperwork. You have to wait for the state to get back to you to say yes, you need to form a board. There's so many hoops and obstacles and rings of fire that you have to go through to become a nonprofit. But I do believe that once the Chrysalis House becomes a nonprofit, they will be able to support their communities even more. And so the communities that they support are BIPOC folks and sex workers in Denver. And so they provide a brave space for BIPOC sex workers to come and feel safe enough to be themselves. They have this motto of "You are welcome to the Chrysalis House to become goo and form into this chrysalis," because this is how butterflies do it. So caterpillars go into this chrysalis, they turn into goo, and then they come out as butterflies. And so the Chrysalis House will celebrate your wings that you can't even see, because butterflies can't see the beautiful wings that they spent months and years growing. And that's what the Chrysalis House does. And I am, like the little house kitten, just making sure that they have the resources, the programs, emails. I just got done creating their website. You can go take a look at it. It is thechrysalishouse.com. And yeah, I am also a website creator and developer, which I forget to tell people.
It's a whole other aspect about you.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Thanks. Jack of all trades, if you will.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm learning some more stuff about the Chrysalis House myself as you're talking about it.
Yeah.
That all sounds great. So before we go, we have a few minutes left. I wanted to give you the opportunity, because you know a little bit more about them than me. At the open mic tonight, we have the Brown Berets chapter of Denver. Do you think you could talk a little bit about them?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if people know, but there is a Brown Berets chapter in Denver being formed. And the fun thing about, not the fun thing, the amazing thing about this chapter is that this chapter is led intergenerationally. So they have elders of the Brown Berets before, and now they have young folks who are going to be the Brown Berets of the now. And they have intergenerational conversations, intergenerational connections in this chapter. They are also, I believe, predominantly women in femme ran, which is super interesting because people think that, the Brown Berets and the Black Panthers were male dominated and male led. But what you don't know is that the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets were actually female dominated and female led. All of the women in femmes did most of the work. So they drafted up what they wanted to do, the proposals, the ideas, the creation, how to take care of community, how to take care of babies, and how to just take care of yourself. All of the women did that. And so what is really interesting and cool about this chapter is that they're bringing this truth about the Brown Berets history into the present, where it's women in femmes lead this. Women in femmes are the key organizers to this. And, most of the time, the men or the masculine folks get most of the credit because you see them more often. So I'm really hoping that, at our open mic tonight, you'll get to know a little bit more about the Brown Berets. You'll get to know a little bit more about what they hope to achieve, what they hope to do in Denver, and what support that you can help them with, whether that's financially, whether that's providing them with physical spaces to do things, or, if you're a young person listening to this and you want to be a part of an organizing coalition that supports community, here's your opportunity to, be a part of this. So please, come by, tune into our Facebook Live if you want to know more about them. I got in contact with them through my coworker, Alessandra. She is a super dope, rad Chicana in Denver. She is organizing out the wahoo. She is just like a powerhouse. And so Ale is super dope and a super integral person to get to know if you want to be a part of like the youth organizing scene in Denver. She's doing the work. She needs the recognition. And so this is for her. The recognition that you're doing, the work that you're doing is super dope and super needed.
Yeah, that's a great summary of that. If you're interested in attending this open mic, it is at 6:30 p.m. tonight at the Buell Public Media Center. It is with Denver Community Media there on the first floor. You can also tune in virtually, visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Sacred Voices Denver. We have been talking with Bree Hill. How can people find you?
Oh man, my brain was like, don't find Sacred Voices instead. Just kidding. You can find me on my website. It is rtq.com. You can find me on Instagram at rtq2. But mainly, if you really want to find me through Sacred Voices. So, sacred-voices.org is our website. If you want to support the work that me and Aston do, I know that I'm jumping ahead, Aston, you can donate to us. We have a donate page. We just got done with Colorado Gives Day. We got like $2,000 in grants and donors. So thank you so much for the people who donated to us. If you didn't donate to us for Colorado Gives Day, you always have the opportunity to do so on our website. And yeah, that will help pay me. So that's how to find me and support me.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening, everybody. I will see you all next time.